here. We've got a few more people that we're anticipating to join us, but we do want to go ahead and get started. I know you guys probably have a lot of other things going on this beautiful Thursday night, so we want to make sure that we can provide you good information, but also respect your time. We'll give it about 30 more seconds or so. Got a good group of individuals that are here tonight. Lots of great information. I'm excited. All right. It is 7:04, so I think I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get this program rolling because we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about tonight. So again, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your time this Thursday evening. My name is Dr. Laura Waite. I am the Director of Student Recruitment Engagement and the Interim Assistant Dean for Student Affairs and Admissions at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, part of the University of the Sciences. And so I want to personally welcome you on behalf of the entire college to say thanks for joining us and for being interested in hearing all the really good things that are going on at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy. We have a ton of momentum right now. We are 200 years old, as you may see from some of the Zoom backgrounds here. So we were founded in 1821, and now in 2021, we are celebrating our bicentennial. So there's a lot going on, and we are still in the forefront of the areas within the college that we have unique niches in. So pharmaceutical sciences is certainly one of those. So our Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences is chaired by Dr. Pete Harbison, who's here tonight.
That's me. Hello, welcome.
And we have our program director that's here. He's the program director for both the pharmaceutical sciences and the pharmacology and toxicology undergraduate program. So that's Dr. Ziyu Lee. So he's here as well.
Yes, nice to meet you again. Is it Jason?
Yeah. So if you have questions, for either of them, they are definitely here to answer those. And we also have Morgan Kelly here from University of Admissions. So she is here to answer any questions that you may have about coming to campus or coming to join us as a student in fall of 2021 or even beyond. She's happy to certainly help with those questions. But I would like to really turn this program over to the rock stars of our evening tonight. So Dr. Isabelle Mercier is an associate professor in our Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and it is her research lab that she's got some of her associates that are here with us tonight, and I'm going to ask her to introduce them and take it away, Dr. Mercier.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, everybody can see this? Okay. So first of all, let me congratulate you on your acceptance to our program. We're very excited for you. And we know this is an important step today that you're taking to come on and gather some information about our programs. Now what though? We know that you've researched our schools. We know that you've researched different programs. But what is the next step of knowing what kind of career can you have with a BS in pharmaceutical sciences or a BS in pharmacology and toxicology? So if you research, maybe you've come across some potential pathways that will take you to healthcare, as well as basic science into laboratories of many pharmaceutical companies, such as, as well as industries, also anything related to medication and drugs. Would those two majors be a good alignment for that? But as well, there's also some pathways that I'm going to talk about later, as well as business. So if you are interested to join business later on, there are also pathways that you can combine pharmaceutical sciences and pharm tox programs also with business. And those are really interesting career pathways. So also what you might not have researched is that a lot of our students we find over the years have also applied to graduate school after they are graduating from our BS programs, as well as, of course, healthcare related. It's very interesting that our students are applying to medical school and getting into medical school after graduating from our programs. Some things that you might not know as well is that your BS program can lead you to cosmetics, which is also a very interesting avenue as a scientist for all the quality control and all these products, those cosmetic products. As well as toxicology branch, which all the drugs, ranging from diabetes all the way to cancer drugs. There are so many different steps that needs to occur with toxicology studies that have to do even before the drugs get to the patients. So your program would allow you to really think of a career that has to do in a pharmaceutical company, leading some of the toxicology aspects of research. So we're very excited to see all of our students that graduate and all the careers that they're joining. So the question in, and what is this session really about? So we are, how can you best prepare for your future career? And that is what we want to transfer this valuable information to you tonight. Once you join our program, how can you best prepare for a future career? And it is most of it, except didactic, by acquiring hands-on laboratory research opportunity. And we have become quite exceptional, I would say, in our department and at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy at mentoring our students to come in our lab, join a project, gain hands-on laboratory experience, and really align them for whatever career they want to choose after. So we are very proud of our students. We mentor them on a daily basis. They come into the lab, and sometimes they choose to even do summer research. There are different internships over the summer that allows students to do either a 6 or 8 week training on research. And this is very valuable, to gain all this research. So this is actually pictures taken from my lab. All the students choose a project. Basically, I have a sit down with a student once they've decided that they're interested in working in my lab. The first question that I will ask is, what are your interests? What are you interested in? So most research that I do in my laboratory has to do with breast cancer research, but we also have projects that are related to colorectal cancer and as well as prostate cancer. So first of all, I sit with a student, and I'll tell you later on about my research being a personalized medicine, but I approach undergraduate research as a very personalized approach of the first step being, what do you like to do? What are you interested in? And I think that's also a very important thing that we need to consider. So also at the university, we have this Center for Undergraduate Research that is amazingly well organized. This is for the students to really find a lab that they want to work in, as well as they organize festivals, science festivals, where students get to present their results and their research. And our students are very excited about this center, which brings together all the scientists and all the undergraduate research together. And it really creates this collegiality amongst the students where they can share all the results, their ideas, and they can present scientifically to faculty and students alike. So I feel, since I came to USciences, that our programs really prepare our students to really stand out. And I don't just mean stand out during an interview. This is only the first step. When you go to an interview, of course, it's very competitive, and we do prepare to be, on the top of the pile of the CVs. That's very important. But also, we do prepare the students once they get in and they get that job to be one of the best among their teams. And I'm not just saying that. This is the feedback we get from employers as well as our students. So our students come back and they call us, they email, and they say, I've been nominated for this, or I've done this, and I've looked at this project in a different way. And my leading team really appreciated the way I approach a project. So this is the feedback we get for our students. I think, really place them in a very unique position to get those specific positions into their future careers. So I just wanted to very quickly, because everyone that knows me knows how excited I get about my research. So I really wanted to just say, who I am. So as Dr. Wade introduced me very well, so my name is Isabelle Mercier, and I lead a research program in McNeil at USciences. And basically our research has to do with precision medicine. I briefly talked about what is to have personalized medicine. What is it? What is precision medicine, basically? So if I take it historically, to really simplify it, is to say, a few years ago, we thought a group of patients would fit under a certain category to get their cancer treated by either chemotherapy or radiation therapy. Now we're finding out that if we look back at this group of patients, which we thought all shared the same characteristics, going back now, we realize how different they were actually genetically. And this is what precision medicine is taking us, is to say within that group where we thought they're all the same, what are the individual patient tumors looking like? And how can we use that information to be more precise into their treatment? So that's what my laboratory is working on. So just to take you basically to each steps of a student coming into the lab. So they would assess cancer patient samples and make sure that what they're studying is relevant to the disease that we're studying, for example, breast cancer. Then they would identify within those cancer population, what is different? Is there something different that we can potentially develop a therapy for, a new molecule for, a new target for? So then they take that information and they come back to the lab, and we have the tools, of course. So we have human cells that we grow into the lab, and we generate and we replicate these types of different patient population within the lab. So then we have patient A population, which would have, a lower amount of this specific target, and patient population B, which might have a higher amount. And we reproduce that and we see how the tumor is growing and so on and so forth. So basically, what the lab does, what you're looking at now, we grow tumors in the lab. So ex vivo, so away from the patient, we take human cells and we begin to grow them in 3 dimensions, right? So tumors are not flat like a piece of paper. So as much as possible, we need to recreate that in the lab. A tumor grows in a sphere. It has all these interactions together. So what our lab does is to try to recreate as close as possible what happens. So we do a 3D organoid culture, and then we go in and the students will maybe choose a gene that they're interested in and knock it down. Knocking down means that they will remove it from these cells. And then they grow these tumors again, and then they'll see their behavior in the lab. So they'll say, oh, once I knock it down protein A, how are my tumors in the lab growing? Are they growing slower? Are they getting bigger? Are they more aggressive or less aggressive? And then they also treat these tumors once they've done some changes, and they will say, oh, look, when I remove this, all of a sudden they respond so well to this therapy, which usually patients are resistant for. So there's all these really nice steps of them, being able to, manipulate some things inside these tumors and then see how the tumors behave. I just wanted to show you real quick, how does that look? So we grow the tumors, like I said, in a sphere. So it's not really, they have to be all surrounding, and we measure the height, we measure the size, and then we would do different treatment, and then we would see how these tumors actually grow. So we have, so these are called actually the organoids. Okay, so I want to really, I don't want to, make you wait any further because I want to share what actually are our success stories of our undergrad. So typically, I wanted to also share what all the students that have gone in my lab since the past 5 years have gone on to do. So I've put on for you a list of students that did projects in my lab. And I wanted to give you an idea of, when you do hands-on cancer research, where do you go after that? And I saw when I put the list together, and it really was striking to me, even putting this list, that it's all sorts of things, which I think is also very interesting. So we have anywhere from our students going to be a laboratory manager at Merck, for example. I have some students that have gone to regulatory affairs in oncology, for example. We have research and development scientists. As I mentioned, some students choose the path of applying to medical school or PharmD or any health-related profession. We also have students that have gone to do quality assurance and so on and so forth. But without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce my undergraduate student that was in my lab for 3 years. And her name is Samantha Gilman. And I don't even need to show the picture because she's actually here. So I'll stop sharing. Basically, Samantha was, like I said, in my lab for 3 years. And she graduated from Lower Merion High School. And she received her BS in Pharmaceutical Sciences. And while at USciences, she received multiple Dean's List nomination. So she was nominated twice on the Dean's List. She obtained 2 research scholarships that had to do with her project, which always till this day will impress me, Sam. She worked very hard getting the data, and she put the data together to get some scholarship, and it allowed her, like I was saying, to work over a full summer. And as well, I see Connor here, which, you know, we might have time to get to. And he also had a scholarship over a summer, which is really exciting as an undergrad to get to do research for a full 2 months and contribute to projects that end up in publication and so on and so forth. So also, you'll notice that Samantha has also, like I said, moved up from being a associate laboratory technician all the way to a manager in 5 years, which is quite impressive. And I know how hard she works, and I want to congratulate her. Without further ado, I'd love for you, Sam, to you know, talk about your experience as a USciences student and your career path after. So take it away, Sam.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. So first of all, congrats on your acceptance. Seems like it was so long ago, but I was actually definitely in your shoes. And I really want to share with you the path that I took to get where I am today. So first, how did I even get in a lab? Well, I asked around about what research professors were doing, and the science that Dr. Mercier does really struck a chord with me. For me, it was the clinical application of the work being done and feeling like I'm really like helping and actually making, you know, improving the lives of people. It really became my passion and actually ended up influencing my whole career path. So, you know, if neuroscience or formulation is something you're passionate about, then you can definitely find professors doing related work and join their lab. So once you're in a lab, it actually really opens up opportunities to get engaged in the whole scientific community. And, you know, Philadelphia is a great scientific community, lots of places around to get involved. And I was able to attend a scientific conference and present a poster on the research that I was doing. And at that conference, I met the Vice President of Research and Development of Integral Molecular, which is where I work now, and was able to show him my poster. And he said, you know, it was really impressive and great work, and was, you know, really happy to see it, and told me to get in contact with him when I was close to graduating for a job. So I actually had a job before I even graduated. So I would really encourage you to put yourself out there. So now that you know how I got there, I'll tell you a little bit about what I do now. As Dr. Mercier said, I've worked my way up in the company that I work at, Integral Molecular. I started in the lab working in antibody discovery, where we were discovering antibodies that would be used to treat diseases like cancer, autoimmune disease, and actually now COVID. We actually supply big pharmaceutical companies with reagents to help them determine how effective their COVID vaccine is, and was actually used in testing the Pfizer vaccine. So now I have a more senior role as a project manager, and I lead entire scientific projects and actually influence business decisions that my company makes. So just a few tips from somebody who is exactly where you are now. First, I would definitely get experience doing research as an undergrad. It gives you the analytical and scientific thought process in the areas that are definitely hot in the science community, like cancer. I also review resumes as well for new hires. And to be honest, if you don't have like the hands-on research lab experience, your resume is definitely not at the top of the pile. So I would definitely say research is very important. You also just need to put yourself out there, take initiative, get involved, and make those connections. And lastly, just follow your passion, which honestly for me is why I was able to be as successful as I have been so far in my career. And I know you will be too. So thanks for coming. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Mercier.
Okay, thanks. Connor, would you like to say something? So Connor, let me introduce you first. So Connor also joined my lab as a second year. And also receive a USURF grant, which is one of the grants given by the Center of Undergraduate Research for performing the work over the summer. So the video I showed you was actually generated by Connor. So he was given a task to bring this up and coming into the lab. So no one had done those three-dimensional organoids before Connor entered the lab. So over the summer, I had tasked Connor to, figure out a way that we can have these amazing models within our lab. And he was very successful within a few weeks to get, these beautiful spheroids, and even not just the technique. He also generated, pathways for analysis as well, to make sure that we have a pathway to be consistent into analyzing the effect of drugs and the different genes. So I want to introduce you. So if you want to just share briefly also your experience as an undergrad in the other major, which is Pharm Talks major.
Yeah, so like I said, well, thank you, Dr. Mercier, for the introduction. But yeah, I mean, just all of the research experience that I've been able to get so far at the school has just been phenomenal. I ended up pretty much stumbling upon the research opportunity, pretty much by happenstance. So Dr. Mercier also happens to be my academic advisor. So I went to her for one of our meetings, and we were talking about research, and I hadn't got the opportunity to be in a lab yet. And she offered me a position in the lab. And as soon as I got into it, it was awesome. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I knew a couple of people in the lab already, and we got set up right away. So it just goes to show that a lot of the opportunities that you end up coming across at this school may not end up happening specifically as you set out for. I know that when I first set out in the school, I was mainly planning on going to grad school afterwards and continuing with a higher education, probably other schools, looking, just trying to figure out what it is that I was going to end up doing. However, plans ended up changing, and now I am aiming up to join the pharmacy program here at the school after graduation. And I'm really looking forward to doing it. Plans change, but they change for the better. And so, yeah, I mean, the research that I was able to do with Dr. Mercier had a lot of guidance with a lot of the great graduate students that we had in the lab. It's a really close, tight-knit community at the school. So a lot of the undergraduates and graduate students that are inside of other labs will also end up they're there to help you out whenever you end up needing anything too. So it's just a great overall learning experience. And a lot of the information that I ended up learning inside of the labs really helped me with my curriculum, and really just gave me a leg up when it came to learning the information that I needed to inside of the actual academic courses. And just overall, the pairing of the material to the research is just going to end up setting me apart, overall later on down the line, and with any career path that I decide to end up going with. So I definitely had a really great experience with all of the research that I did on campus. So.
Thank you, Connor. So also I wanted to share that, while we have you guys here, that also other really interesting research is going on in neuroscience as well as pharmaceutics. And I think if I can, show you my colleagues again, hopefully this works. Okay, so there you go. So these are all my colleagues. So we have faculty here in both, also teaching in pharmaceutical sciences as well as Pharm Talks program. And they all have active research. Again, like I said, so the most research that we have are either under cancer research. Also, let me put this in bigger. So we have neuroscience, which is also another big angle of our research into the department. And also we have drug delivery. And the reason I also wanted to touch upon that is that over the years, we've come to really know each other as colleagues. So the amount of collaboration, inter-laboratory collaboration has increased tremendously, because over coffee break, we're going to talk about some cancer compounds, and then we have someone in pharmaceutics saying, oh, but did you ever think of delivering it that way? And then, here comes, all these collaboration. And what it does is that our students, it increases also our student interaction. And also, I think what Sam can attest to is that more and more, when you join whatever pharmaceutical company you're going to, whatever team you're going to join after, interdisciplinary collaboration is on the top of everyone's mind. And also I feel that at USciences, we're very, very, experienced at building those interdisciplinary teams. So typically in my lab, I have, and I can show you the team later on, but typically over the 5 years, I've had students from the PharmD programs, all the majors. I have graduate students from different programs, as well as MBA students that join, because I do love this different angle to research, which is being brought by all different backgrounds. So I think, this is something that, we are doing very well, integrating all the teams of research, and not just for the sake of it, because it is making our research even better. If I think about a molecule one way, and then, even some of the collaborations I'm doing now is with Dr. Wallach, for example, and he is a neuroscience professor, having, active research in neuroscience. And we just put our heads together of, we work on some antipsychotics, which are being used for schizophrenia, as well as Tourette syndrome. And I am testing those into our cancer models. And Dr. Wallet is modifying the molecule to be more specific and more targeted. So I just think, I really love this interdisciplinary collaborations among our different professors, and as well, which by default really have our students really cross collaborate across majors as well, which I think, can only be something you take with you once you join your new team after you graduate as well. So just, to conclude, I wanted to introduce my lab, and also that they have offered to meet with you guys on Zoom if needed, if you have follow-up questions for that are more related to students. So we have Sam today and Connor, of course. So we really encourage if you have questions today. But I would really encourage you to email me, and I can definitely put you in contact with them for a one-on-one Zoom or a group Zoom that you can have a conversation with students that are, again, from different backgrounds. We have graduate, undergraduate students, and how, they're traveling through all this nice experience on hands-on research. So also, I think, we can maybe put this in the chat. I'll put it in the chat later on, my email. So please feel free to email me, and I can definitely put you in contact with anyone. Thank you. This is just a nice quote that I live by every day. So some students, actually, this is actually a nice story, because students, sometimes they say, well, I'm not only going to be here for this amount of time. What if I don't get to the end of the answer? And I always tell them, I say, don't worry, as long as, you've contributed to the right questions. And I later find out that's actually a quote. So whatever I've been saying and reassuring students as well, of course, we understand that this is a very quick timeline. And even if it is a summer, like I say with Sam and Connor, they've contributed to either the models, they've contributed to ask the right question, and this has taken my research forward. So the research was totally driven by my undergrad, which to me is very powerful as an undergrad student. So just keep in mind, research is not overwhelming as long as you enjoy it, as long as you have a passion for it, and as long as you, sometimes come up with the right questions to ask. And you'll see that the whole difference, your legacy will be taken over for many, many years. So now I think I'll give it back to Dr. Wade. And if you have discussions or questions for a student, I think now would be a great time. But again, thank you for attending tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. Mercier and Samantha and Connor. We really appreciate you guys being here. I also wanted to turn it back over to see if Dr. Lee or Dr. Harbison had anything that they wanted to add, any final comments, and then we can open it up for questions either in the chat or just feel free to unmute and ask. So Dr. Lee or Dr. Harbison, either one of you have any comments you'd like to make?
Well, I would just like to follow up with what Dr. Mercier said. Research is really important in the department. We encourage all of our students to do it. She showed that series of photographs. We have 16 faculty members. Basically, everyone is involved in doing some type of research. So you can usually find a lab to work in. And every lab is active and has some really interesting stuff going on. Dr. Lee?
Yes, I agree with Dr. Harrison and Dr. Mercier. This is a research opportunity is really important. Students learn more from lab research than from the textbook. And this is a lot of things, collaboration in the troubleshooting, and also that is a lot of that is problem you face every day. You need to find a way to solve them. And now, I think I want to give more time to our accepted student.
Absolutely. I would say so. Whatever questions you have, feel free to drop those in the chat. I had put Dr. Mercier's email address in the chat already, so it's there for you if you need it. Jason or Nathaniel, do either of you have any questions you'd like to ask or anything that we can clarify for you about our programs, about the university or the college, or anything for Samantha or Connor specifically?
I don't have any questions. I think the presentation was very edifying. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And also, you know, sometimes I attend events and the questions come later on. So this is why I really wanted to put my email into the chat. Questions will come tomorrow, and that's totally fine. So of course, you know, feel free to email, and I'm going to put you in contact with the proper student or person if you have a question that come to you later on.
Absolutely. So Connor, I don't know if as a current student, you'd be willing just to comment kind of on student life. So, you know, how do you collaborate maybe with other students? What types of professional organizations, or, you know, what do you do in your non-lab time? Maybe just talk a little bit about student life.
Yeah, I mean, so the only like big organization that I'm a part of is Pi Lambda Phi. So we have like a fairly tight-knit community in terms of Greek life. It really just it is like such a small school, so really having like a nice tight-knit community that ends up like spanning over like a fairly large population of the school, like it feels really nice to be a part of something big. Like we're constantly doing community service events and stuff like that, so it always feels good to be able to get back to the community. Overall, you know, just like we're all in it together. Like we're, you know, the classes aren't terribly hard, but they're not easy, you know, so like they're going to end up challenging you, and we're all in it together to pull ourselves through it. I just ended up getting out of an exam from Dr. Harrison in toxicology, and also had an exam in pharmacology earlier today. So, you know, all of the people in my major I'm super close with. So you know, it really is like one of the best experiences that I've had. I couldn't have imagined going to like a bigger school and not really having like the close-knit community that, you know, I ended up getting from coming to this school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also what you're saying is making me think of, you know, sometimes I reflect back and why our students are getting job offers even before they graduate. So I think you bring a good point that being smaller programs, there's definitely more mentoring going on, and, you know, those questions that, you know, might get lost and, you know, in a bigger group of research labs are definitely not. They're being addressed, and you know, I think the mentoring and this close knit also reflected during the research experience, I think is also the kind of parallel training that's going on, and that really close mentoring. So thank you for mentioning that. It reminded me to think about it.
Mm-hmm. And I think Samantha, you know, based on your experience, it sounds like you might have had some, you know, good mentoring and then potentially networking kind of as you have moved through your career as well. So what advice might you have for Jason and Nathaniel tonight for kind of how to position themselves well to end up where you are now?
I would definitely say, you know, like I said, when I was speaking earlier, get involved in the research for sure. Like I said, I look over resumes, and I know others who look over resumes at my job. And literally, if you don't have hands-on laboratory experience in some sort of research environment that's not in, you know, like a controlled classroom, you're not at the top of the pile. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to elevate yourself, whether you want to go to grad school, med school, get a job in industry, good academia, like the research that USciences does, and I think personally, especially this department, is just exceptional, and it really elevates you to that next level, for sure. And I can definitely attest to also this, the tight knit kind of community. When I was there, there weren't too many people in my major. So it's kind of like you all can band together and really like study for stuff, exchange notes, and, console each other after a test that you think you didn't do too well on. And also the professors, like I was in Dr. Mercier's lab, but I remember, I went to her office to ask her a question and she wasn't there, but I saw Dr. Harvison was there and I was like, oh, well, you're here. Let me ask you instead. It's a very, it's a community really, rather than a department. Everybody really wants to help each other. Everybody wants to help their students, other professors' students. It's a really great experience.
Great, thank you. And I know both of you have mentioned, we've kind of all talked about this, kind of the tight-knit community and how, you really know everyone, you know each other as students, you know the faculty. And I would say in general, that's a Philadelphia College of Pharmacy culture as well. Like we all tend to know each other, we tend to band together. And so you may have heard that, we are looking potentially at a merger with St. Joseph's University. So the University of the Sciences and St. Joseph's University would become one. The idea behind that, though, is that the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy would pretty much stay intact. So the programs that you're hearing about tonight, the research opportunities, the facilities, the lab facilities are really not going to change. So those are going to stay the same. They're going to stay on campus. And so you'll still have an opportunity, even if the merger does go through, to be able to work together in that same environment. My 5-year-old is losing her mind in the background. I very much apologize for that. I'm going to mute and turn it back over to Dr. Mercier if you have any kind of concluding comments.
Yes, I just have one concluding comment, which also made me think when Samantha was speaking, is that by doing research, it gives you an extra reference when you're ready for the next step. And it's interesting because the employers will look at that. They want to know outside your didactic course, okay, when you are focused on taking exams, you're in a classroom and you're very, very focused. They want to know the other type, your other, experience. How do you deal with a team? How do you deal with getting tasks done outside of didactic class? Because this all adds up to different skills that your future employer will be looking for. So think also about it, it's fun, you do the research, but also think that you have someone rooting for you at the end and ready to supply, all these phone calls to your future employer, all the letters, and really set you up for success to even get into your dream job, right? So we all need someone to kind of be there for us when we want to apply to that dream job. And I would say thinking about your mentor, your research mentor, as being the one rooting for you for your next step. And I think that's very, very valuable. And that's something that we do every time. So and we're happy to do it because we see our students grow as young scientists to really colleagues. By the time they graduate, they're not my student anymore, they're my colleagues. And and then it's so easy for me to write a letter to their future employer saying this is what they have to offer. And it's really a nice process to see this evolution.
I will say too, though, that there are a lot of opportunities through these programs, even if you don't end up in long-term research roles. And so Dr. Mercier had mentioned this, and actually Connor had mentioned this because we're working on transitioning him over into the PharmD program. But there's a lot of different postgraduate opportunities that come after having a really solid undergraduate bachelor's degree in both of these programs. So very competitive for med school, very competitive for pharmacy school, very competitive for master's and PhD programs. If you decide that you want to go further on, you really have built yourself a foundation in these 2 bachelor programs that will carry forward and that makes you really stand out from the crowd. And so that's one of our goals, is really to kind of get you wherever it is that you want to be. And so if you find yourself that's in a research lab and you think, I like this, but maybe I don't necessarily want to do this forever, that's okay. It's still been a great experience. You have still built a foundation that will be useful for you no matter which direction you want to go. And we work with you, your faculty work with you to make sure that you can go in any direction that is really where you want to go. So lots of opportunities coming from this. Any further thoughts from anyone? There's a lot of great information and resources in the chat. So if you've been checking that out, you can see we've got email addresses for pretty much everybody here on the Zoom tonight. So if you wanted to reach out to our student or alumni or faculty and Morgan from the admissions office, we're all ready and waiting to answer any questions that you may have to give you more comfort. If you've already decided to come here, very excited about that. If you're still on the fence, we're certainly willing to talk to you about whatever it is that you may need. So anything else that you'd like to put in the chat or any final comments from anyone before we wrap it up? All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for spending, like I said, a beautiful Thursday night. Turned out to be a really nice day and nice evening. Appreciate your time. And I want to thank Samantha for coming back and joining us again. Glad to have you back in your virtual stomping grounds. Not quite the same as being in person, but at least you're with us. So we appreciate everybody's time. And again, please feel free to reach out with questions and hopefully we'll hear from you soon. Thanks,
Absolutely.
guys.
Yeah, thank you, Jason and Nathaniel, Samantha, Connor. It's good to see everyone.
Absolutely.
Good
Thank you.
night. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.